All right, y'all. Proof of Workforce Live. Today we have the folks in Brazil might be getting paid in Bitcoin. We have Bitcoin versus Warhol, Bitcoin versus art and real estate, and the first ever private sector union in the United States to put Bitcoin on its balance sheet. Punch your time cards. It's Friday, y'all. Clock in. And this is Proof of Workforce Live, where workers come to grab their Bitcoin signal. So let's get right into it. Brazil, a legislator by the name of Dom Pedro II has introduced a bill potentially making it possible for workers in Brazil to get paid in Bitcoin. And broke down a translation, this bill is getting circulated as potentially folks getting paid in Bitcoin. But again, I'm a huge advocate of finding source documents. Folks at home, you have to find source documents and break them down before just taking media headlines, including here on this show. So I took the little snippet of the legislative bill, and what it really says is they're going to explore the potential for people to get paid in virtual assets. That's a pretty broad category. So how they'll get paid, virtual assets can include anything. So we assume Bitcoin, because why would you want to get paid in anything other than Bitcoin? But unknown as to this bill, what's going to happen. So just wanted to give you that snippet there to let y'all know. Remember, read your source documents. Bitcoin versus Warhol. Let's move to a clip from, I think it was Preston Pish's show. He had a guest on there talking about Bitcoin versus art. And I'm going to throw out an alert right here. Long clip alert. Long clip alert. Buckle in. This is a 2-minute video. Please get a snack, give us your attention, and let's roll it, Jacob.
Warhol is worth less in Bitcoin terms to me in the space of 3 or 4 or 5 months. Warhol, an icon of value in the world of art. So that's story one. So already you can see that art, if I'm not alone, I can't be alone. If I'm not alone, Bitcoin is beginning to encroach even on things like art as a store of value. Second point, I'm literally coming back from, I think, North Carolina last night, late, landing in Miami at Drive-Up, landing in Miami. And I'm sitting next to this nice guy on a plane. And we were talking about, it's really fun to live in Florida. And it's a beautiful night. It was great. It landed. And he says, "Do you live here?" I said, "Yeah." I says, "How often do you get to North Carolina?" He said he goes quarterly. And I said, "Oh, you're on a board?" He says, "No." He's an executive coach. And somehow we got out of real estate because you can't talk about Florida without talking about real estate, right? And he asked me, "Oh, do you live here?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Do you live anywhere else?" Which is code for, "Are you also a New Yorker?" And I said, "Well, no, the only home I own is actually in here in Florida." And he says, "Oh, that's interesting. Me too." And I said, "Well, why?" He says, well, because, I just think I just only want one home." And I said, he says, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I actually invest in tech." And he says, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." And I also invest in Bitcoin and crypto. He says, "Really? I do too." Now, the guy is older than I am. I'm sort of a first year of the Gen X. He's probably a boomer, sort of few years older than I am. And we talked about it. Guess what? Both of us agreed that we wouldn't put any more money into real estate when we could put it in Bitcoin. In other words, even real estate in Florida is beginning to get eroded by that conceptually. And so I don't see that stopping, Preston. I see that beginning to accelerate.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're not Gen Z. We're not millennials. You're talking about, call it a boomer and a Gen X that is right on the cusp of boomer. I'm close enough to boomer to know it when I see it. So, so that's, by the way, if it's happening here, it's going to happen everywhere and it's inevitable. And my guess is it accelerates.
Okay, so that's Tad Smith. Let's talk about some takeaways from that video. Number one, his background looks really nice. Probably is an art collector. He's telling you, for him, a Warhol piece has not held value against Bitcoin. So when it comes to store of value, he's saying that Bitcoin is starting to infringe upon the traditional store of value of artwork. So that's huge. Number two, he's a borderline boomer. He's telling you, he's talking to another boomer on an airplane, and they're talking about Florida real estate, and they're having a hard time justifying why they would want to put money into real estate over Bitcoin. I don't make the rules. I don't give financial advice. That's just Tad Smith, a boomer, and an art collector, and someone who invests in digital assets, who's having a conversation with another boomer on a plane, saying that when it comes to store of value, Bitcoin is the top dog, beating out traditional legacy stores of value like real estate and artwork. I don't make the rules. Take it for what it's worth. But I thought it was an interesting clip, especially since we know that the adoption curve of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies sometimes sit more heavily with the younger generations of folks. So, okay, just in yesterday, first private sector labor union in the United States adds Bitcoin to the balance sheet. They're called IATSE, not to be confused with Yahtzee, even though this was a Yahtzee move. 3,000 member chapter of a 170,000 member union, the union behind entertainment, and that's IATSE, which, if I'm looking real quick, stands for the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. It also includes moving picture technicians, artists, allied crafts of the United States, its territories, and Canada. These are the camera operators, and IATSE Local 728, huge milestone in becoming the first private sector union to add Bitcoin to the balance sheet. For proof of workforce now, this marks, I think it's 10 worldwide, with 8 of those being in the US, 5 of those being in the state of California. So the union movement to learn about Bitcoin is gaining steam. Couple that with your guy, Tad Smith, who says the store of value movement of Bitcoin against art and real estate is gaining steam. Maybe there's a bunch of things gaining steam. You might want to pay attention to what those are. I don't know. You guys are smarter than me. Make up your own decision. So, congratulations to IATSE. Huge shout out to Jason Lord, David Graves, and the treasurer Pascal from IATSE. A great moment for their members, and they're going to be doing a ton of learning, and they're doing it the right way by involving members and learning about what Bitcoin is while taking a very small, responsible step into Bitcoin. So congrats. Other news from the union world. Japan, their largest labor union, has secured one of the largest pay raises in decades. There's a graph there you can see, right? You can kind of catch part of that graph, and you see that since 1990, there were steady raises in the 5% range. Those dipped down all the way through the 90s and 2000s and picked back up now recently to a 5% average pay raise in the country of Japan for this largest union. Now, it also says that Japan's overall inflation rate is 4%. So while that's great news, it's not that great a news. That's a 1% pay raise. And when you factor in housing and energy costs, that's not much. In fact, they're probably still taking a pay cut. So in that article that was in Bloomberg, there was a quote: businesses' ability to keep raising its salaries is nearing its limit. The system is being stressed. So that'll be interesting to watch. And that does impact things like pension funds and the liabilities they have, which brings me to the announcement that I made on Wednesday that I am running for the board of trustees for CalPERS. I wanted to take a moment in this proof of workforce update section to give a huge thank you to everyone in the Bitcoin community that gave encouraging words of support. Natalie Brunel, there's way too many names to mention everyone. Dr. Noah Kaufman calling out the doctors, trying to rally the doctors to support Bitcoin students. We have students all over the world that retweeted support. And we also have members of CalPERS that kind of reached out and said, hey, count me in. So excited to be looking at it. Larry Lepard, huge support from that. Thank you, everyone. And it's going to be a very challenging campaign and journey. But I'm very grateful to have the support of such an amazing community. Parker Lewis, David Bailey, Corey Clipston, just everyone coming through. I'm just Brian Harrington. Um, just blessed to be a part of this community. Anders, captain, my captain, one of the first Bitcoiners that I met way back. Sean Bill, a legend and former board of trustee member himself, voted, I think, in like 2022 as one of the top large fund managers, top 100 large fund managers. So um, this industry continues to demonstrate that it is not a niche industry. It is attracting some of the best talent in the world. Really blessed to be a part of it. Thank you, everyone. If you want more information about the campaign, go to www.bei4calpers.com. That's B as in Bravo, BEI for calpers.com. Please help get the word out and support as much as you can. One of the main reasons I am running to be a board of trustee on CalPERS, which is the nation's largest public pension that serves 2 million plus employees, is I want more people to get involved. I want to be a conduit for positive engagement, for people understanding what's happening in the pension system and pension systems all over the country. It's very important stuff. So please get involved. Even if you're not going to have your friends or family in CalPERS vote for me, please get involved and it will be worth it. This is important stuff. And we are at a pivotal moment for pension funds throughout the country in making sure that they're still solvent and able to take care of the retirees that have been working and paying into those systems, not to mention the taxpayers that have been working and supporting those systems as well. So it's all about the workforce here. So thank you so much. We move now into self-custody, and this week's last self-custody tip of the day, tip of the week, not your keys, not your coin. This is, for the time being, sponsored by a very unique local neighborhood bar out of San Francisco, La Rocca's Corner, one of San Francisco's oldest neighborhood bars, a great place to grab a drink and lose your Bitcoin that has a Bitcoin-friendly bartender and maybe friendly patrons. And so for the self-custody tip of the day, and by the way, another tip, don't drink alcohol. I'm sorry, I'm not going to push my thing on folks, but if you cut alcohol out, I'm telling you, you will find a life hack like you've never seen. But to each their own. Some people want to have a glass of wine or something, but I just thought I'd share that. So self-custody. Let's get back to self-custody, a much less dangerous endeavor. Holding your Bitcoin on your own in your own custody. So the tip of the day is this: we're coming up on the weekend. Y'all had a busy week. You were working, you're grinding, you're tuning into Proof of Workforce. Maybe Saturday you're going to go out, catch a game or something, go to the kids' soccer game. Sunday, day of rest, you're going to make a nice coffee in the morning. If you hold Bitcoin in self-custody, make yourself a little Sunday self-custody check. All this is a checkup on your systems. Make sure you have a good setup. Read some of the tea leaves and see if the signing devices are having any issues. Whatever signing device you use, try to engage in the community. Hop into a Spaces or something. Get the latest on your self-custody setup. Check to make sure you're able to do things like restore from a seed phrase if you need to. Make sure you haven't forgotten passwords. Make sure you don't have vulnerabilities by storing Bitcoin in one spot, like your home. Put things elsewhere, and just go ahead and make a little checklist to make sure that you have hands-on self-custody. Again, self-custody is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not something where you just show up and you're done. There is responsibility that comes with holding the keys to your own Bitcoin. You may decide one day that it's better to be held with a custodian, but the way that Bitcoin was created was to limit or eliminate third-party risk. That is someone else making a mistake that leads to a negative outcome for your hard-earned time and energy via however you store your value. Again, back to stores of value, right? So have a checklist, go through it, and stay diligent on your self-custody, learning the latest and greatest in that realm. And if you've never done self-custody, you can do it with $1 and just learn kind of like what it feels like and what it means to hold value in self-custody. I highly recommend trying it out, but responsibly. Don't be reckless. And of course, do your own research, your own due diligence always. So, on that note, what a week it was. We had Sunnyvale announce that they were the first dual public safety association to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. That was on Monday. We had an announcement for the CalPERS Board of Trustees on Wednesday. We had the first private sector union in the country announced that they hold Bitcoin out of Burbank. The motion picture camera operators, local 728. That was on Thursday. It's Friday now. Whew. Proof of work was rolling heavy this week. Huge thank you to everyone. Proof of Workforce. I also forgot to give a shout out to the board of directors, Proof of Workforce, Joe Carlasari, Lisa Huff, Mags Granowska, Chris Alamo, Hafa Zaguri, Ajit Singh. These are just like legends that keep making things possible. And thank you. So we're clocking out. Punch your time cards. Hopefully we kept it under your 20-minute break, although I don't know, I doubt it. And stay humble, stack sats. And again, if you're gonna trade your time for money, make sure your money holds up over time. That's all. Whatever your method, make sure. Thank you to everyone. Big shout out to the legend producer. You know who he is. I'm not even going to mention, but behind the scenes, making everything possible. Y'all have a great week, and we'll catch you next week.